Hello and welcome to the Hooniverse Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Glucker. This is episode 304. Say hello to my wonderful co-host, Ron Baugh. How are you, sir?
Howdy, folks. I'm well.
Are you drinking anything tonight?
Of course.
Okay. I thought you were dry. What's going on? What are you drinking?
No. Today I've got what is it? I've got 3 different tequilas in-house, so I forget which one it is. It's a rosé tequila, though. Código, that's the brand.
Wait, which one? This isn't the all-female one, is it?
No, that was La Gritona. This is Código.
Wow, fancy.
Yeah.
I'm a rosé tequila. I'm drinking double fractal dragon curve dual IPA from Equilibrium. I bought it because
Come on, man.
I bought it because the can looks cool.
It is. It definitely is.
It's smooth. It's not crazy. It's for
I feel
double
like
IPA.
I would enjoy dissecting the graphics of that can more than I would be drinking that beer.
The stuff I'm going to take after the podcast would go well with this can.
Okay.
But it is tasty, and cheers to you, sir.
Indeed.
Okay. Let's dive on in. And first things first, we're starting off with a vehicle. It's funny because we were going to record this a week prior, but we were both very busy. We pushed it off, which is no big deal. People listening don't care. Was that your wonderful foster dog?
Yep, that's my buddy Matoma, a.k.a. Morimoto, a.k.a. Big Squirm.
Oh, my God. It's so cute.
He just discovered these rocks, which there are probably hundreds of by the radiator in my place.
Oh, my God.
I don't have central heat. This building's from 1929, so I have a radiator, and I guess someone thought it would be classy to bridge the gap between the radiator and the flooring with just those little pebbles. And they've been here for the last 2 weeks that he's been here, and he just discovered them tonight. So his thing is now just picking them up, dropping them, gnawing on them, making noise. So that literally happened right as we started recording tonight. That's the first time.
So if you hear that in the background, it's a dog playing, and
Sorry.
you cannot get mad at a dog playing. So it's fantastic. I love it. It's hilarious.
He's up for adoption, and not to say I want to get rid of him, but he is available.
There you go. That's funny. So I drove last week the new Toyota Tundra, 2022 Toyota Tundra. Important vehicle.
Was that an invite drive? Did you have
it what?
As a loaner, or was that like a
launch?
launch?
No, that was like a first drive in San Antonio, Texas. Yep. It was good. It was a really good truck for 95% of the things you want out of a vehicle. It's I'll say the bad part right out of the bat. It's ugly. It's an ugly truck.
It's not attractive. Yeah.
It is. Especially when they showed footage of the last gen with cleaner sides and all this stuff. It's just, it's.
Is it any better in person or no?
Some colors look better in person. Some trims look better in person. The toughest one is probably, 1794 gets more chrome, and that doesn't help. TRD Pro, you think
hold on. What is that a reference to?
1794. They've had that trim for a few years. It's a reference to something to have to do with. It's a Texas thing. It's when I don't know if the city of San Antonio was found. It has something to do with
Alamo,
Texas. Maybe, but it's a big deal.
Why does every truck have to have a Texas edition?
King Ranch, blah blah. Excuse me. Because that's where they sell them. Even though it's funny because everybody's like, "Oh, Texas, we sell trucks." California, I think, still sells the most trucks.
I would love that if that's true.
Texas thinks it's king, but whatever. Have your fun.
Right.
So the 1794 trim and the platinum trim are basically the same, except 1794 is more chrome and platinum, or is it limited? Shit, it's limited. 1794 and limited is more body color, so which I prefer. Gotcha. But you would think even the TRD Pro you think would help the giant grille, but it's all blacked out all the way down through the bumper, and it just makes it look weirder. So So some colors it looks good. It's not a good looking truck. The way I described it is there's this era of, especially with Japanese cars specifically, where there's an extreme amount of creases and vents to an insane level. So Civic Type R is a good example. It's too much for me. I get why they did it. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Like,
But it seems to be strictly Japanese designer, like at least with an Urus, you're like, oh, that front end's Lamborghini, it's recognizable. So the Tundra, I think, is caught up in the tail end of this design era. And a good example. So like
I would say I wouldn't call it a design era. I would call it a styling era. Like it's just add as many creases, add as many folds, and just like different surfaces as you can, and like that's like evident in C8 and a lot of other cars. It's like they're over styled. It's not really
over styled
design.
Right.
It's just like, okay, just add surfaces to make this more interesting.
Yeah.
Toyota, Lexus. There's a lot of manufacturers that are guilty of it.
Yeah, well, Lexus just showed off the new LX600, and it's like 90% grill in front. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But for the Tundra, every other part of the truck is really good. The interior is light years ahead of what it was. Nice big screen. The on-road driving experience is right up there, best in class with the Ram, because they swapped out the rear leaves for multi-link. So it's a multi-link suspension out back, which causes a hit to payload. But and then the engine, the base engine is a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6, and the upgraded engine is a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 with an electric motor sandwiched between the engine and the transmission. So it's a hybrid.
So does that motor drive front or rear wheels or both?
It kind of drives it all because it lives in between the engine. It's like in the bell housing. So it's happening before you get to the divs. And it's a very mild hybrid compared to the F-150. It only operates up to certain speeds. There's no button for EV mode. It's more for like helping you get off the line, helping improve overall fuel economy. It makes some really neat like whirring noises at times, which is kind of cool. Yeah. But it makes 470 something horse, 5 something 100 plus torque. So it was great. And then off-road, it was super comfortable as well.
Does that mean no more Toyota V8 in that truck?
There's basically V8s are going away for Toyota and Lexus.
Gotcha.
So like that new LX600 is also some manner of forced induction V6.
Yeah.
So the era of the V8 is pretty much over for Toyota, which is funny because right outside, which we'll get to later, but I have an IS500, which is essentially the last V8 for this family. Which is kind of crazy, but we'll talk about that one in a little bit. But the truck,
also interesting because they re-upped for the next gen of NASCAR, so they're still marketing or racing a naturally aspirated V8. But I mean, NASCAR really has no connection with street cars anymore, anyways.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it's good news that the new Tundra, despite being stylistically challenged, is a very good truck, and I'm really curious to see what they're going to do in the aftermarket with them. The TRD Pro comes baked in with a light bar already in the grill, which is insane, but it's playing to the audience. Yeah. And I specifically asked them, I'm like, hey, is that like just a daytime running light element, blah, blah, blah. They're like, no, it's an auxiliary beam. They're like, but you can't use it unless you're also already using high beams. It's like, oh, thank you. Thank you for not letting people just go blip. People immediately are going to find a way to like bypass it though.
Of course.
And run that shit all the time. Stupid idiots.
The LED equivalent of rolling coal, just max obnoxiousness.
They're literally listening to The Weeknd, Blinding Lights, and they are the blinding light, and I hate them, even though I love that song. And this is a PSA for anyone listening who has off-road lights on their off-road vehicle. Your off-road lights are for when you're off-road.
Yeah.
You look like a mega chode with your lights on the road. Everybody hates you, and you are actually actively blinding people, and you suck. I had a guy, I posted something on Instagram like 2-3 years ago where I was like, just saw a dude in a Raptor, with all his lights on during the day. Nobody likes you. You're an idiot. And somebody messaged me. They're like, who are you, the arbiter of what's cool? I'm like, dude, I responded to, which I didn't need to. I responded, I'm like, this has nothing to do with being cool. This is actively unsafe. Yeah. Those are for off-road use. You're blinding other drivers. That person's a nuisance.
Yes, 100%.
Whatever.
Nobody's impressed.
No, absolutely not.
Until it's the middle of the night and you're out in the middle of the desert, and then
1,000%, yeah. 1,000%. Yep. I love videos where they're showing like, oh, look at our new Baugh designs or Casey highlights. Boom, shit's awesome. Love it for off-roading. I wish I could turn my lights on in my Montero, but they're for off-road. Okay, moving on from the Tundra. Good truck. Doesn't look good. Everything else is good. We're moving on to a segment where, because we've been doing this the last few episodes, where I think we're going to dive into this or try to do this going forward, where I'm going to pick a good Bring a Trailer pick and a bad Bring a Trailer pick based on the vehicle and what it's sold for. And Ron, is he going to agree with me or disagree with me? And this week we're going to start off with the good. I'm pulling up a picture on my screen, which those of you watching on video or listening won't be able to see, but so I can re-see it. Somebody listed a 1971 Citroen DS21, a wonderful, amazing, future-thinking machine, sold for $12,750. Totally reasonable. I mean, it has a
condition,
so it says 38,000 miles shown, total mileage unknown. It was repainted. The paint looks good. The car runs good. There's some wear in the seats, but it's a really, really good driver. So like great condition, good condition for a California driver too. Like it's in Arizona. I didn't see anything wrong with it. But okay, so it says like the radiator is missing a shroud, air filter's been modified, and the steering rack has been replaced. But like none of that is for Bring a Trailer. They're probably like, oh, gross. Like, right. And I'm sure maybe the shroud on a DS21 is tough to source, but who cares? That's such a neat, interesting, real genius era, cool car, and under $15,000. That's for Bring a Trailer. I think that's amazing.
That's wild. Yeah. I'll agree with that. That's a score. I'm not a huge fan of those cars just because of lack of availability and qualified technicians and, maintainers. But
sure.
They're cool. They're undeniably cool. And that sounds like a great price.
Yeah, there's probably like 5 shops in the country, and all the shop owners on a first-name basis and all that stuff. You're like, hey, I need to ship my Citroen to wherever that Citroen lives because that's where the shop is. All right. So good. We agree that one is good.
We are aligned.
Here's the bad one, which some people might find surprising because I own one of these, even though it hasn't been on the road in 7 years. A 1983 Mercedes-Benz 300 TD. They say 300 TD turbo. I don't know why they needed to add the turbo to the listing title.
It's like VIN number.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And oddly, this one also has 38,000 miles shown, which is weird. And this is a very clean, nice W123 or S123 if you want to get super technical. Really, really nice, clean wagon. It might have even been like a one owner, or it was like a 2-owner deal where the previous owner owned it for 31 years, blah, blah, blah. Owned in Connecticut, which is where these things go to live. Lovely car. In black too, which is actually a rare color for these. However, it sold for $64,500. Yes.
Oh my God.
So,
sorry, are you considering just a back to stock restoration now?
Dude, yeah. I mean, no. Like this one is crazy clean, especially for an East Coast car specifically. And the engine on these runs forever. The OM 617s. However, what are you doing here? 64. Like.
That's like $100,000 Grand Wagoneers. Like it's just it's a nostalgia for the Reagan era and like the waspiest of waspes.
Yeah, super waspy.
And it's like they'll never make cars like that again. That like harken back to such a particular period in time that wasn't performance based. It was like luxury or lifestyle based.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't performance based. It was you just rolled down the road in a tank that fit your family, your friends, and your very expensive dogs, and whatever you probably had like Gap clothes when Gap was like.
I don't even know if Gap was out then.
And it was like worth money.
You're like a rolling Ralph Lauren ad.
Yeah, or Benetton. Is it a United Colors of Benetton? Isn't that shit expensive?
Yeah.
So. I love W123s, S123s. That price it's insane and it's not like total mileage unknown, which means it's probably at 138,000, which granted for these cars is nothing.
Right.
But I don't even know. It doesn't even have the stock head unit if they want to get technical. It has a JVC aftermarket JVC
No, man.
Not even like an Alpine or something.
For that money, it's got to be Alpine or like Macintosh, something.
Yeah, Macintosh would be nuts. Even like just give me like a Kenwood would be better than a JVC. I don't even know what we're doing here. But so I think we're on the same page though.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
It's outrageous money, but I'm happy for everybody that's selling their stuff for crazy numbers.
I like how you're always so positive about the dudes.
It's all going to come. It's all going to ebb and flow. It's going to come down, but ride that wave. Make that money. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, I hear you, and I feel that, and I am always surprised when people get the good money for things, and I already know which one we're going to talk about next week because there was a truck with just an old F-Series truck that went for stupid money. So I'll bring that one up.
I didn't see that. So
Twitter was abuzz with this one. I'll bring it up next week. But we're moving on to something that's very near and dear to your heart because we're talking about wheels right now. Because this morning I saw a Lexus GX4. I dropped my daughter off at school, driving back to the house, stopped at a stoplight. A nice dark blue Lexus GX 470 with like deep dark copper bronzish TRD wheels. So from the brand, they look great. They fit perfect. They look like they could have been OEM spec. And technically they are from the sister brand, but it's awesome. I love seeing wheels from another vehicle fit another vehicle so well. And I thought of a few examples where I think that also looks good. And I want to see what you think about this. C4 Corvette saw blades.
They look good on everything.
They do, right?
Yeah, they look good on everything. Like they were 17s and like, the base C4 had 17.9.5 front and rear, but the ZR1s had 17.11s, I think, in the rear. They had like a 3. They may have been 12s. They had like a deep like recessed hub.
Yeah.
And, like those are the ones that are hard to find. Like you never come across them because the ZR1 was so rare. But last week, I don't know if you saw this, but last week I saw an OBS Chevy truck, like an 88 to 98 Chevy pickup extended cab, on the freeway with those saw blades. But they were ZR1 specs, so they had the wide rears, and the truck looked like almost like stock height, and it had the wide rears, but those wheels were also directional, which was like unheard of in the era. So your left and your right wheels, like were angled in different directions. That, as somebody that makes wheels, I can tell you that is a huge pain in the ass. But it was, somebody like steadfast and said, no, we're making these directional. We're not going to have the rear wheels going backwards, or the other side going backwards.
Right.
But this truck that I saw on the freeway actually had the fronts on correctly and the rears backwards. So like, I don't know if that was intentional or if they just like didn't notice that they were actually directional, but I feel like that would happen all the time. Like going to the dealer and like getting your tires rotated and stuff. Yeah. They just like swap corners or like put the wide wheels in the front, not realizing, and then like, wait, this doesn't look right. And or have the wheels.
He's like, my car's pushing everywhere. I don't know. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a wheel. I've seen that wheel on like Mark V Jettas, like Mark IV Jettas even. Like I've seen it on all sorts of cars, from Impalas to Chevy trucks. Like they just like on its own, like I don't think it's a great looking wheel, but it just works with so many different body styles.
It is like the cocaine hillbilly TE37. Because the TE37 works on everything. That wheel is amazing. I don't know if you agree with that statement, but I have never seen a vehicle that looks bad with TEs.
No, of course not. They look great on it because they have the right fitment for everything. That's that's the thing. Like they've got big diameter wide wheels for R35 GTR. They've got 17-inch like deep lips 6-lug wheels for Toyota trucks.
Yeah,
and like they have a version and they've mastered the fitment for all of those different platforms. That's secret to success. Just make them fit right.
Another from the same era as the C4, similar era, the Fox Body 10 holes. I like those because they remind me of the D windows because they're just like D windows with more windows.
That's an accurate description.
Because they're like I feel like they work on anything because D windows work on like everything from muscle cars to.
What do you mean they work on anything? You haven't seen them on anything.
I've seen
108. They only fit like Mustangs, like random like Japanese cars, like You haven't seen them on anything.
I like Mustangs.
You're a visionary if you
Japanese
think
cars,
they
though.
look good on everything because you haven't seen them on anything else.
Two classes of car that I like, and now I'm going to spend the next few weeks photoshopping them on a bunch of cars, making sure that the fitment would work, and sending them to you.
A bigger waste of time
to prove.
Like 15 by 7s. Like people use them as spares. Like people use them as drag wheels, just throwaway rear drag wheels because you paint them black.
They're cheap.
Of course, they're cheap.
Perfect.
They don't look good.
All right, the next one.
I have seen some guys. I have to give this credit, but it's. I don't know if it's really giving the design credit, but I have seen some guys recently cut up the stock 15-inch 10 holes and make like 17-inch 3-piece wheels out of them. And I would never advocate for that because I don't think it's safe.
Right.
You're taking a cast wheel and applying loads to it in places that it never would have experienced those loads. Like I don't think that practice is safe in general, but everything looks cooler with the deep lip and 3-piece bolts. That looked cool. I got to give that credit, but again, I don't know how safe it is.
The next one, you are not allowed to disagree with me. No, of course you can. But the AMG Penta Wheels from that era of Mercedes-Benz, perfection. So good. They look good on those. Look dope.
Agreed.
What are those? 5x112s probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the bunts too, but that's just me being a Benz homer. The Pentas are the shit.
See the bunts, just like the phone dial Fox body wheels, the 10 holes. They look good 3-piece converted. I've seen that, or replicas in 3-piece a few times. But again, like everything looks cool with the deep lip and 3-piece hardware. But I can't do bunts in general. But the Pentas, dude, home run, absolutely. I have copied that wheel a number of times and different configurations, and you just can't go wrong with that wheel.
Yeah, Pentas.
It was also used, or a version of it that was made by Ronal was used on Celine Mustangs of there.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Because then I'm starting to think about what that era Cobra R wheel looks like.
The 93 Cobra R wheel was actually the 94 Mustang GT, parallel 3-spoke. It was that wheel painted black with no center cap.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was like they had this wheel in development. It was 17-inch. It was, it was 5-lug, but I think the Cobra R was still 4-lug, but they used that wheel, which is super weird because that wheel does not look good at all, especially not on the squared off Fox body as compared to the rounded SN95. But again, my opinion.
Sure. Now, do you have any other examples of wheels that you think could dance around a little bit from something to something else? Like anything that jumps out in your head?
I mean, OE, I don't know. There was a few, I want to say 93 to 96 Corvette ZR1 wheel.
Okay.
That looks really good on a lot of different GM products from the 90s, like from Impalas to my truck, the OBS trucks. I've seen them on. They were a version of that wheel was standard on the later Camaro SS's. Oh, of course. Stock, anything that came with stock BBS's, the BMW BBS, translates really well. The M Parallel 5-spoke.
Yeah, that's true.
The E38 7 Series, 7 Series Sport. I've seen that wheel on Camaros. I've seen it on old school muscle cars, because it shares a bolt pattern with those vehicles, and it's a lower offset. It looks good on a lot of stuff. There's a lot.
I was shopping for E38s. Well, I was looking for this Jag too. E38 was high on my list, and I
know you and I were not sharing information, but we were.
Yeah.
I was talking to parallel searches going on.
I was talking to Tony Angelo about it too, because he also was interested in finding one. And I reached out to Freddie Hernandez. I was like, "Yo, I'm thinking about getting one of these. I've randomly heard that the 12s are more reliable than the 8s because there's some insane shit with the 8s. What do you know about that?" He's like, he just said, he's like, "Do not ever buy one of those cars, no matter what engine is in it." It's an era where BMW just didn't give a shit. They have the cheapest interiors. There's this and that. Everything's going to break. Everything's going to fall apart. It's still all expensive. And I'm like, and hearing him say that, where he'll take on anything, I was like,
yeah.
I'm like, I still want one, but okay. I mean, there's a reason they're cheap.
Yeah, our mutual friend Mike Rice, he was a BMW master tech for many years, and he was like beyond tech. Like he was like the guy that was like subpoenaed to like represent BMW and like
Lemon law shit.
Lemon trials and shit. Like the guy's knowledge is extensive, and he's an expert. He's a like bona fide expert. And every time I see an E38 that I really like, and I'm like, it's got, you know, this engine swap, or it's got this, or like maintenance has been done, I'll send it to him. And I'm like, Mike, please, can I? This one? And he's just like, every single time, nope, walk away. I don't care what they want. I don't care if it's $2,000. I don't care if they pay you to take it. Just no. So, it's such an unfortunate reality because they're such gorgeous cars, and that's like at the top of my list.
Yeah, because I just wanted it as like a daily driver, drive kiddo to school in, like take wife to dinner in, and they're like sub $5,000 all over the place. I mean, at least here in California, and so there's like, oh my god, like even the 12s, even the long wheelbases, like all this stuff, or like the shorties with the M Sports, like all that. You're just like and everybody you talk to who knows a little bit, they're like, hard no. Hard.
Dude, it's so crazy.
It's crazy because they'll dive into like 12-cylinder Benzes or like Audi S8s, an older one, and like they'll dive into all this other stuff. And you're like, whoa, that's got to be crazy. Like it has nothing on that car.
Yeah,
so it's a bummer.
They were so great when they were new. It was like I was 18, 19 years old working as a valet in Atlanta and like working at high-end restaurants. So like I saw like everything, all the cool new shit, and those are some of my favorite cars from the era. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, people weren't really driving Lambos and fucking Ferraris and shit back then. And that was like it. Like, you know, a 740 I Sport with a 6-speed, like that was the ultimate.
Yeah.
I'd see a few of those, and like me and my buddies would race, like, you know, client like cars, because like the parking lots were usually down the street. So we'd literally line up two cars and like haul ass down the street, and, like try and beat each other to the entry. But one of my buddies who I valeted with, like he basically convinced his dad to buy one of those, or at least I think he did. And yeah, we would just take it out and just go do burnouts in parking lots, and just like we're just like, finally this, like we get to enjoy this car legally the way it's supposed to be. And yeah, we'd like leave like holiday parties and just go do donuts and burnouts in his dad's car. Bring it back smelling like clutch, smelling like tire smoke. Like, that's what it was for.
That poor car. Now we're wondering why we can't buy them, or why they're $5,000. Because you'd be the sixth owner of this thing that somebody is holding together with hopes and Band-Aids, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to stuff that we are driving. This week, like I said earlier, I have the Lexus IS 500 in the driveway. It is finished in a beautiful shade of blue.
Blue is crazy. What is it called?
I don't know. I got to look it up. But it is a really good blue. It has the wheels are Enki wheels, actually.
Really?
Yeah. And it has a naturally aspirated 5-liter V8, which is one of the magic numbers for a V8. And then in the cabin, I haven't pushed it too hard, but in the cabin, it's nice because at 2,800 RPM, an intake bypass tube opens, so to let more sound into the cabin. The seats are super comfortable, and it's not going to beat anything in its class performance-wise, because it's not an ISF. They're like cleared, like it's an IS 500 F Sport performance. It's not an ISF. But
why not? I mean, are there plans for an ISF? It sounds like no.
No. Right. I mean, GSF is dead.
So why go to all that expense of engineering and
they have the engine
design to not like sharpen it just that much more?
I think they don't need to, because their customer, I don't know, because they're like, well, if you want that, just go, even though it's a coupe, go see the RCF, like they'll try to steer you towards that. Right. But it still is like 470 horse or something like that. Like it's plenty of power. And it's actually kind of nice. They can sell you more like, well, it's not as fast, but it's also not as punishing, because it is super comfortable. The seats are killer. I think it's a 17 speaker Mark Levinson audio system. The steering feel is nice. The gearbox is kind of relaxed for a vehicle like this. It's not a ZF or anything cool. It's just a regular ass 8-speed. But it looks good. It's almost sleeper. They didn't go over the top with the badging, which is kind of cool.
Color.
Yeah, well, the color's not, but
Yeah.
but you'd have to look at. There's like a slight bulge to the hood, and then it has the stacked exhaust,
Right.
Which is kind of cool, and that's kind of it. It does say IS 500 on the back, but it's like just one badge.
Yeah.
So it's whereas like the ISF, is fenders and all this crazy shit.
Yeah.
It's nicely down styled off of what we were talking about earlier.
Cars look great. Like it's a car that I typically don't pay that much attention to, but I see them on the road and like they've got really great colors and like I feel like it's the one car in like the Lexus Toyota lineup besides maybe the Supra that's not overly styled. Like it's like that's just tasteful enough. It's got just enough going on where I'm not like, oh man, like I don't want to be seen in this, right? Like every time I see them, I'm like, that's actually a really handsome car. It might not be a full enthusiast vehicle, but they're good looking.
It's like it's like a perfect daily driver for the person who also occasionally wants to put his foot down and enjoy the commute.
Right.
And it's excellent at that. It's not 9/10 to work every day, which would get old, quite frankly, as we get older. The car's good.
Expensive.
I'll be shooting video with it tomorrow before it goes away. It's a short loan. But another vehicle I had last weekend, I had an Infiniti QX80 to tow an Airstream base camp.
Really?
Base camp is one of their smaller ones, which, funny enough, I didn't realize it was designed in partnership with Nissan. So it made sense to pull it with an Infiniti, which was kind of cool because it's like a real curvy looking Airstream. And the thing I've been fortunate to review a handful of Airstreams over the years, and it's always the same story where it's very much like a supercar in the RV world where it looks really nice. The fit and finish is amazing. And then a lot of times the shit you want to work well doesn't work well. The solar on the roof just wasn't working. So we were dry camping, which means we didn't have access to shore power.
Right. So
you're charging the whole drive up there, and it has some nice deep cycle batteries and all this stuff. But if you're not connected to shore power, you're sitting there. Because there's a fridge, there's a full size bathroom, there's lights and stuff like that. We weren't running air conditioning. We weren't running heat or any of that stuff. So it wasn't like a crazy load. It's like a typical weekend camping load.
Is there no supplementary generator?
No.
Oh, wow.
But you shouldn't need it with the
Right.
solar. Just for a weekend camping, you shouldn't need it. That should be enough to power what we were doing. And just I was constantly checking the battery because I can hit a button to see the voltage. And it's just like dropping. And then at one point in the night, you just start to hear beep when it gets below like 9, whatever the voltage reading is. You're like, fuck, it's a little too low now. So like occasionally during the day, I would just plug the 7-pin back in and let the Infiniti run like it was a generator.
Right.
Like that's what I got to do to keep my fridge on all weekend, which I didn't feel bad about it because we were parked next to a dude with a Class A who had a generator, and every now and then he would run it, which is fine. I mean, you're at a campground, it's fine.
Right.
And his generator was actually nice and quiet. But like when he would fire his up, I'd like walk over and like turn the Infiniti on. Be like, all right, I'm just going to let this truck run for like 30 minutes to try to get as much juice back into this. And we're doing it like all weekend. Whereas if the solar was working, we wouldn't have had to do that.
Right.
So it's kind of a bummer. And I've had other issues with Airstreams over the years, and it sounds like snobby to say, but I'm reviewing them. If there's a fault, I need to talk about it. I get that I didn't spend the money to buy this, but like if I was reviewing a Bentley and shit broke, or an Aston Martin and shit didn't work, I would tell you. I've blown out a window in an Airstream once because the seals on them are sticky. We couldn't get the air conditioning to work on another one where we were camping and it was hot out and like we had dogs in the thing. I'm like, this is a tin can that's a sauna inside. Like the air conditioning just doesn't work. And we were connected to shore. Like it just wouldn't turn on. So Airstreams are lovely looking things. The fit and finish inside is generally very nice. The packaging is pretty neatly designed. It's great to have a full-size bathroom with a shower if you want it. But I feel like every single time I've had one, there's always something that doesn't work.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no experience camping, but that's just sad to hear because it's such a revered brand that everybody thinks is like the Rolls Royce or, like you said, like the Bentley of the camping world. But it sounds like it's more the Lamborghini.
So I do think that if you had one and you used it often and it was yours, you would figure out how to fix those problems. Like if this was my trailer, I'd be like, why is the solar not working? And I'd fix it.
But is that your responsibility? Like
for this loan, it's not.
Right.
Correct. Right. But I would be like, hey, Airstream, my solar's not working.
Right. Even as an owner. Yeah.
Fix my trailer. And then they would, but still, like if they're going to give one to the press, they should know like, oh, this thing works perfectly. Like you should probably put your best foot forward. So I was like, all right. And like, it always happens. The funny thing with the window story, which I think I may have talked about on a podcast eons ago, was we were camping in a really nice one at some campground north of Malibu, actually like 15 miles south of the campground we were at this time, oddly enough. We had one of the big 28 footers, the classic shaped ones that you're used to seeing. Right. And our friends were tent camping in our same spot, like some neighbors. We said, come on up, share our spot. We had the trailer dropped off. I didn't even have to tow it up there. It was perfect. And then one of the days, so like I said we couldn't get the air conditioning on. We're like, fuck. So our wives took the dogs down to the beach while my buddy and I stayed. And we're like, let's just open every window in this thing and try to like cool it off. So we're opening windows and they're really sticking and all this stuff. And I'm opening one and I hear behind me, smash. And I turn around and his face, he's white as a ghost. And I turn around and I realize he was trying to open the one over the kitchen and it had just exploded outward. And I immediately start dying laughing. And he's like, he's horrified. I'm like, dude, I'll say I did it. It's mine. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, that's insane that just happened. And so I called the PR person, like, hey, and the loan had been late to arrive. They said it was supposed to arrive at a certain time. It was getting really late. They made it in just before the park closed. And this one, our daughter was like a baby still. So we're like, we needed to get her in a trailer to go to bed. So they were apologetic about that. I was like, so now I'm calling apologetic. Like, hey, I just totally destroyed one of the windows on this like $150,000 trailer. And they're like, don't worry about it. They said it happens all the time. I was like, oh shit. Apparently the rubber seals get so sticky when it's hot that like Airstream owners know if it's going to be a hot day, get the windows open.
Is it just a slider or?
No. It like,
or what?
I can't do it here in the camera, but it's so like the window just like folds outward away from the trailer. So the rubber seal, which is good to keep water out, but as soon as it gets hot, that thing turns to glue. And he's like pushing, and I took a picture literally of like one piece of glass that was held together because there was a sticker on it that said like, be careful when opening or something like that. And they're like, hey, don't worry about it. I was like, okie dokie. And
it's the thing.
Yeah. I told him. I told my
camp for a weekend with a window wide open. Like, would you?
Well, I had a screen. It had a screen still, but the glass was toast. The glass was just like a million pieces. It was amazing how it shattered. Like, it did not break like automotive safety glass. It broke like a beer bottle. It was like a thick beer bottle. It was wild. So that was fun. That was really funny. That was otherwise a wonderful camping trip too. That was going to lead me into the next vehicle. I was going to bring up that I get the Ford Bronco finally on Friday, but I'm skipping that. We're going to save that for another one.
Did you not have this already?
What's that?
Did you not have it already?
I had it for one day. I had it for one day at through Auto Trader because one of the guys who works for Kelley Blue Book is a North American Car Truck of the Year judge. And so he gets stuff sent to him constantly outside of just even getting stuff for Kelley Blue Book and Auto Trader. So sometimes he gets stuff in where they're like, hey, so-and-so is getting this vehicle in, video team, if you need to get into it for a day just to shoot a video, which is very helpful for us. So he had two back-to-back. He had like the 4-door and the 2-door. And so we jumped into the 4-door one day. So I've driven it was like a black diamond with the 2.7, which the engine kicked a lot of ass. This one I'm getting on Friday is more of it's the 2-door Badlands with the manual. So I'm very curious about the smaller engine, the manual gearbox, and all that stuff. So I will report the following week.
I'm super curious about that.
Yeah, I get it on Friday. I have it for a week, but I have to fly out of town next Wednesday to drive a new Subaru up in Oregon, which is perfect for a new Subaru. All right, Twitter questions. First question from Mac Murphy at Mac Ford Fan 98. This is a tough question. just because we didn't prepare for it. 3-car garage from the year you were born, or maybe better, the year you got your license. So these questions are always good questions. I can't think of what was from the year I was born. That's the part that always screws me. So I was born in 1980. So was I.
Kind of sucks.
I just don't know. That sucks. And then I got
Malaise era and everything sucked.
Yeah, there's probably like some cool Ferraris or something,
Were they?
Maybe.
Nothing made more than 220 horsepower.
Right.
Nothing.
Right. That's true. And then the year I got my license was 96, which is better because then our buddy A-Day is Camaro's 96, right?
I think it's I think that's a 2000.
Oh, is it? Oh,
that body style was 90. Well, like his is the facelift, which I think is 98 and later, and I think his car is a 2000. But that body style was introduced in 93, so 93 to 95, or I'm sorry, 93 to 97 was like the 4 lights.
Okay.
They weren't the catfish like Anthony's.
And I can't pick that though because I've never been like a big Camaro. I'm more of a Ford guy, like you are. But
I drove his car and it's fucking great. Like for what it is, it's like it's like you're not blown away by the speed or performance, but it's like got the right suspension mods. Like the thing is planted, like it does its job. It sounds great. It's comfortable. The AC blows cold. Like it's
so perfect for him.
Yeah,
he has the T-tops off.
It sticks out the T-tops.
Our buddy Anthony was a linebacker at USC. His arms are huge. He looks like he swallowed Dominic Toretto and like absorbed his muscles. It's the perfect car for him. It's so great.
I don't know about you, but he's my attorney. So
well, he is mine too.
I'm glad to have him on my team.
He's a lawyer, yeah, and he's a massive car guy. He's awesome. So Mac, I'm sorry I can't pick the cars off the top of my head. Steph Schrader at Steph the Pet.
You're not even an attempt.
I mean, all right.
Why mention the question if
I know? Fine. 96. Okay. I think there was a Range Rover Classic from that era, which will be one car in my garage. I don't know which generation of 911 that is, but I'm going to.
96 would be 9.
Would it 993? That's perfect. Yeah. So 993.
996 was the first year, and 993 Turbo, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm always a Targa guy. I don't know if that's the thing. I'll take a 993. I'll take a Range Rover Classic, and I will take. I need something with a bit more muscle from that era. Or what? I don't know what would have muscle from that era, though. I mean, I guess I could go with some sort of Mustang or something, but
sure.
What do you answer?
It's on my list. 96 Celine S351. I don't know if R meant supercharged, but they had a supercharged 351 Celine in like 94, 95. Oh shit, 96. I think they still made the 351, but that would be my Mustang, my like super hot performer. And then I would have a 96 two-door Tahoe like I own currently.
Oh wow, look at that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean that was the car for all of like my like high school classmates. They all had the 4x4s. But I always wanted the two-wheel drive lowered, so got that. So
keep answering. I'm
always on my list.
Beverage.
And then 96 Impala. That's it. That's all I need.
Oh, damn it! That was a really good answer.
Well, do I need that much Chevy in my life? Like, there were E38s. There were like 96 like S coupes. I think like the big coupes, like the pillarless coupes with like.
I'm really annoyed.
Dual pane glass. Like I love those cars, but I really loved them back then. Like that was just like ultimate baller shit.
I'm really, really annoyed I didn't say 96 Impala SS. Really annoyed because what was the rarest color? The red one?
Probably. Yeah, but 96 was the year that they got rid of the digital dash, it had analog gauges, and it had the center console shifter.
Switching to a new beer with a great label called Hole in the Sky from...
I got to catch up. I got to go make a drink real quick.
Okay. And if you wanted to do a supercar, I'm curious when like the...
Everything sucked.
Well, XJ220.
I mean, it sucked. Have you driven one?
No, but... When was the XJR 15? You drove an XJ220?
Yeah.
Damn.
It was a customized car, but I don't think it made it any better or worse. I think it was just a terrible car to begin with.
You go make your drink. I'm gonna talk while I Google what year the XJR, the Jag XJR 15.
I think it was 93, 94.
Oh, it's even earlier than that. It looks like it's 90 to 92. for the XJR 15. The XJ220 stopped in 94. And then, so no to the Jag. Oh, wait. What year was the McLaren F1? As I type this, McLaren F1. And McLaren F1 was 92 to 98.
There you go.
So I'll do a Range Rover Classic.
Yeah, you got to do that.
I'll do you know what? I'll do a Range Rover Classic. I'll do a McLaren F1. Fuck the Porsche. Yeah. And then I'll do a 96 Impala SS because you got to keep it real.
There you go. That's a good line. You win.
Right. Steph Schrader at Steph the Pep. Settle this once and for all for the DFL show. Is DTM, Deutsch Touringwagen Masters, a touring car series?
Currently or historically?
I think she's asking historically, but wagon means car. So I'm going with touring car series. Yeah. DTM is also the shit.
But now DTM is like SLS, like Lambo, R8, like, it's not the sedans of the 90s. Like, but British touring car is also insane too. And she also wrote, hello, new host. I'm guessing this is Baugh. How much puff would a Puffluff lump if a Puffluff could lump puff? I don't know if you know who Steph Schrader is, but somebody replied. What? Don't worry about it. A Puffluff, don't worry about it. Victor Troya at Victoria21. I like this question because this guy has a Montero. Is the Montero the most underrated off-road vehicle, and which generation is best and will be most likely to go up in value? I would concede.
It is high on the list of underrated, but I honestly think in this country, Suzuki might be more underrated as far as off-road vehicles go, because Samurais and XL7s and all that shit, they can go a lot of places. Isuzu, people would lump in with Mitsubishi, so Montero's down there because everybody's like, oh, Land Cruiser, Jeep, blah, blah, blah. And Montero can go everywhere those vehicles can go, no question about it. Sure. And they're super reliable and awesome, and I love them. As for which generation is the best and will most likely go up in value, I don't know if the first generation is the best mechanically, because Gen 2s and Gen 2.5s are pretty awesome.
So is that the limit? Like, how many generations are there?
In the US, 3.
2. Okay.
It went on longer elsewhere. Right. I forget, it died recently, actually. Like, they just killed it recently. But we went Gen 1, Gen 2. There's a Gen 2.5 with these super rad blister fenders. And then there's a Gen 3. Gen 1 will go up in value the most just because it's the first gen. It's boxy. Right. People like boxy SUVs right now. But I don't.
What's yours, Gen 2?
Gen 1. Mine's the last year for Gen 1. I don't see them rocketing in value anytime soon. I think you can, if you can find like a Nissan Patrol, which is just something you never really see here, that might command a bit more dough. It's weird. Like, Montero's, people who can't afford the FJ60s and 62s went to Monteros, which is what I did. At least that's my story. And you would think that would drive the Montero price up, but it's done it a little bit. And some people have asked crazy money for Gen 1s, but they're not really getting it. Yeah. There's been 1 or 2 that have sold where you're like, nope, hard no, you're insane. But I don't really see it going anywhere crazy. Brando at Brando Huang, generic car advice question. What's the next logical step after a Focus ST for under 50K? Looking for something comfortable for long trips with adaptive cruise, but still a little fun if the roads get tight. Thinking CPO, Macan S, or Stinger GT2. It will never see the track. And he writes that because I know he tracks his other cars. I think the Kia is a good direction because, especially in like a boring color, it's totally incognito sleeper car. A Porsche is a little bit more standout, but great.
Macan, though? Like, Macan is like a jelly bean. I don't think it stands out as, like...
Yeah, but it's still a Porsche.
I don't mean to stereotype or, like, discount it, but yes, it's a Porsche, but, I mean, it's like a Q5, like, very similar, like...
Yeah. Outside of California, though, that badge still is like kind of wows in some parts of the country, even though he does live in California. Sure. He literally bought my 114 off me. So thank you for doing that. Hopefully he autocrossed it once too. My old Mercedes. So Brandon is awesome. But if you're never going to track it, just get an Accord. Like the Accord whips.
What about a Toyota Camry TRD. I would never advise anybody to get that car, but it's like the silliest thing ever.
I know.
I don't know why it exists.
302 horsepower is like legit though. But the Kia, he said it himself. The Kia Stinger, you could probably pick them up for like really good money right now, even though Kia is oddly. Well, it's mostly the Telluride that's commanding insane money. But if you could pick up a Stinger for within your price range, and you said under 50, I think you're good. That's a perfect sleeper-ish cruiser. The only people who really know what it is are enthusiasts. Yeah. And we don't care as much anymore because it was new and now it's not.
I would also throw in there something like a Grand Cherokee SRT8. There's a lot of fast, like fun to drive vehicles that if you're never going to see the track, like would just provide like smiles for days. Like
yeah.
Even a used Mark V Supra. Like I don't know, if he needs passenger room, if he can do it.
He's a younger dude, but I don't know his full story. Not to speak for you, Brando.
Audi S4 are like
S4,
S5 even like
a
lot of cars, super comfortable, very capable, and like easily tuned. You get more power out of them, and if you're not tracking it, like it's a car that you can drive at 7 cents like all day long and just have the most fun with.
You know what car? If I had to drive like into LA every day, you know what car I'd want? I really want a modern Caprice. the cop only version,
but just like as it is, like bare bones, like cop spec. Or
but I would want to modify it to I would improve the creature comforts.
Well, that's an SS.
Yeah. But I want the Caprice, just cause. I also kind of want an
SS interior and features.
Yes.
Inside a Caprice.
Yes.
Vibe.
Or the Police Interceptor Explorer.
Yeah.
Just to literally get people out of my way on the highway.
Yeah, for sure.
You see that in your lights, and you're like, oh. Okay. Ethan Tufts, Hello Road, at Mr. Ethan Tufts. Inspired by an earlier tweet by Bradley Brownell. Exhaust pops and burbles on overrun. Are there any new cars where this trend actually sounds good? It sounds awesome on my 944 Turbo, but that shit is real. He wrote, also pops and burbles might be a good band name or soda brand. When it first came out, I think it was a lot of fun, especially most notably on the original Jag F-Type R. Right. It was bananas. Yeah. I know another journalist who got pulled over for driving one press car because the cop thought it had some kind of dumb aftermarket exhaust, and it was 100% stock.
I know of a YouTuber that has one that gets pulled over all the time, and I think his car might be modified at this point, but still, like they are super obnoxious. Like I had a customer that got one when they first came out, the 2-wheel drive version. Like I made him give me a ride like through Beverly Hills just to see how obnoxious we can be, and it was max obnoxiousness. There's nothing like. I
had the Supra. The Supra is really bad about it. It's you can turn it off, which is good, but it's so constant. You're literally just, if you have it on and you're just casually moving in traffic at the same pace as everybody else, every time you let off the gas, pop, 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 pop.
Oh, it's a BMW.
Pop, 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 pop. It's like, nope, click. Like this is
the factory BMW crackle tune.
BMW's really bad about it.
But I gotta say, like we have a company, Supra, Mark V Supra, and I love driving that thing stock. Like it's lowered, it's on wheels, whatever. But with stock exhaust, I loved it. Like I didn't find that offensive at all. Like it wasn't annoying. It sounded cool. I was like, this is primo. But we put an aftermarket exhaust on it, and I won't drive it again.
Yeah, it's ruined.
Yeah, it's like it's way too loud. It's not valved anymore. It's just super loud, super obnoxious, and it's not even the actual exhaust note. It's the D-cell pops and crackles. Like it's just so obnoxious.
It never stops.
I don't want to be seen in this car.
Yeah, you look like an asshole.
Yeah.
You're like, who's that 16-year-old? Like, nope, that's a 41-year-old man.
41. I mean, I still rock my hat backwards. My Morris Blackman do the right thing hat.
That joke I made is not making it into the edit. So that was pre-starting. Bradley Brownell, oddly, has the next question. He says, you've done a cross-country EV drive. Tips and tricks for someone who hasn't done it before, asking for a friend. All right. I have done a coast-to-coast electric vehicle drive. I did it in the fall of 2019. We thought we were going to try to go for the Cannonball EV record. Then we realized that was not going to happen. We just wanted to do it in one shot. Tips and tricks are the EA network is, unless you're in a Tesla, the EA network is your best friend.
America.
What's that? Electrify America. Yep, thank you. Especially because cross-country wise, a lot of them are in parking lots of Walmarts, which is insanely convenient. Not every Walmart is 24 hours, but a whole damn lot of them are. And so you go there, you're charging your car. Usually you're going to find a minimum of 150 kilowatt chargers. A handful of them also have the 350 kilowatts, which, is more than the average car can use now. And there's a bathroom. You'll learn that there's two layouts to the Walmart. The bathrooms are either on the left or the right. And as soon as you walk in, you'll go, I'm in this one or I'm in this one. You figure it out right away. You start buying Hot Wheels and beef jerky and Red Bulls while your car is charging and you're going to the bathroom. And it's perfect. Their Walmarts are well lit and all this stuff. Though I will say, one Walmart going cross country was scary as shit in Memphis, Tennessee, because of the distance we heard pop, 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 pop. We're like, okay, this car's charged. Let's get out of here. Holy shit.
I've been waiting for my opportunity to ask, are the parking lots of 24/7 Walmarts not like the sketchiest places in each city that you find them?
Because what I found is they are very open arms to people in RVs. As like a place to stop for the night, not for like nefarious shit. Like there were, it wasn't like a ton of them. It's not a ton of them. It's like one or two people driving cross country in their van life shit. The Walmart's like, it's fine. You can sleep here, which is amazing for these people. They don't have to find a park somewhere safe.
So it's not like Rose Avenue in Venice where it's people like park there semi-permanently in their
no. And like
RVs.
The parking lot's lit up, bright lights. It never felt unsafe, literally, except that one time we heard distant gunshots in Memphis. 3 white guys in Memphis in an electric Audi. We're like, oh, mama. We're like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. And it was...
Hold them up.
Yeah. Boom. Yeah, we're in the... So the tip is stick to the EA network as best you can. Plan your route ahead of time, or at least have a decent idea, especially pay attention to the weather, whether it's cold or hot. If it's hot, you're fine. If it's cold, really pay attention. And then if you plug into an EA charger and it is not reading the speed you want it to read, try a different charger, because sometimes you'll get one and it's slow and you go to the next one. So rather than sitting there and just dealing and accepting like 47 kilowatts on a 150 kilowatt charger, try it. If there's empty chargers, try another one. And more likely than not, it's going to give you the full speed that the car can accept. That's happened to me a handful of times. Another thing, randomly, depending on what you're driving, this is more of an Audi e-tron specific thing. And we learned it from the very first stop because we started freaking out. The charger in the car wouldn't talk. The first few times we tried plugging in, this was at our first charging stop on a drive cross country. We're like, and it's freezing out. We're like, what the
precedent?
Fuck? Like, this can't be happening. And EA's customer service was on the phone right away, which was great. They're like, as you plug it in, just slightly hold up on it, like give it some upward pressure, and that worked. We're like, what the fuck? Like, a customer shouldn't have to deal with that,
right?
But if you know that, it's helpful. So just keep that in the back of your head. I don't know if that has been solved with. This was like the first year for the e-tron, like all a bunch of stuff. But yeah, stick to EA.
An annoyance, but I'm not going to fault them because I can't tell you how many gas pumps I go to that I got it. Like, there's some trick to it, or the lever to like keep pressure on, so you don't have to hold it like that. Like, is broken. Like, there's no perfect system.
Yeah, no, I know. So good luck, Bradley, on your cross-country trip. I don't know what you're driving, but have fun. The Jacob Brown at the Jacob Brown writes, Shift Talkers, I hate when ESPN does it, but I love your show and I have no idea why. Not a question, but thank you. Ron is also on it.
What's ESPN got to do?
I mean, there might be some, inspiration from some ESPN stuff.
Am I Shannon Sharp?
No. I'll tell you later. Team Radar S Pumpkins at Midnight Drifto. Question for Ron, now that I know I've been drooling over his Fox body for years. this is a great question. What two styles of modifications would you like to blend given a blank check and all the time in the world? That's a good question.
That is. And it's one that I've had in my head forever. And it's one that I hope to execute soon with my 62 Lincoln. I really want to combine like mid-century modern styling in the interior of that car. Like keep it real clean, classic with like the materials that you would find in, a luxury home of the era. But weirdly, I want the exterior to kind of represent like 90s Japanese like VIP style. Like, the diplomat mirrors in the corners and like just like crazy camber and like weird Japanese wheels. Like I don't know what it is about Japanese car culture and like their styling. Like they do, I feel like they do American cars better than American enthusiasts. Like their attention to detail is just so on point. And if I can build a car that appeals to Japanese enthusiasts and like gains their respect, then I feel like mission accomplished. And it's like the two don't go together, but it's just what I've had in my head for the longest time. And like that will be like, it's almost like a cost no object build, because that car is going to be expensive to modify and do what I want with it.
That is a really good answer, and I know Midnight Drifto will appreciate that because I've been following them on Twitter for a long time, and that's their aesthetic. That's a really good answer, but I feel like there was a point where in Japan they looked at U.S. cars and they mimicked them on a smaller scale, and then they exceeded them in their own Japanese way, which is why one of my dream cars is I forget exactly which Nissan it is. I don't know if it's a Cedric, but there's a wagon over there that looks like a smaller, like 67 Galaxy wagon or a Country Squire.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know exactly which model either, but
it's a Cedric. It's a Nissan, and I want one so bad with like either a 2J or a 302 or something under the hood. Yeah. I wouldn't give a shit if it was electric. I mean, honestly, if it was electric, it'd be rad as fuck too. And I want it which is like the other direction of the car you're talking about. If I Americanized a set, even though that's already an Americanized Japanese car, it's like Inception at that point.
There's
7 layers deep
over there, and it's like who copied who,
right?
Like who came first, the chicken or the egg? But there's like just so much crossover between their aftermarket and like custom styling cues and ours. But I just feel like their execution is at another level. Like when I went to the Tokyo Auto Salon in 2014, like one of the things that like stood out to me the most and like impressed me the most was everyone. And like this is from like the amateur, show guy that's just there showing off his home project to, like the big like tuners, like, Gretty, HKS. Like one of the things that stood out to me was the fact that all of their wheels were clocked and the center caps were clocked as well. So that everything was like, if it was a 5-spoke, it was like, a true 5-star, like, the 1 spoke at the top, like straight up and down. The cap was clocked, so it was, perfectly horizontal and legible, like that.
So they have to do that to do that? Do they have to like get the car in, lift it, take the wheels off? Of
course.
Like, you have to do it on site. You can't like roll in. Yeah.
And imagine like when axles are connected, like, it's like you've got to basically jack up, the rear end and get both wheels right before you put it back down on the ground. Like it takes a lot of work, and like that's something that most Americans and in the automotive aftermarket like would never even consider. You drive into the show, you park your car, you wipe it down, you clean it, you're good to go. But again, the Japanese just take things to another level, and it's just like they're not satisfied until everything is perfect. Like we're like, oh, like who's going to notice that? Who's going to pay attention to that? Unless you're going for like a Riddler or like America's Most Beautiful Roadster, like you're not going to like exhaust yourself with every little detail. But like they do, even when there's no reward. It's just like I'm putting my best foot forward. Like this is how I want to represent my car and myself to the world, and it's just like impeccable.
That's why, like, I love at SEMA when they all the trucks, they talk about the Bluetooth drive shafts. That shit makes
like,
me
oh, well, such and such didn't make it. Oh, well, the powder coater fucked me. It's just like, yo, bro, then don't even come. Like, don't even bring that shit. Like, if you're not 100%, don't even show up. Like, SEMA is not an in progress or like best project show, but
it is.
People treated it. It
is though. Yeah. And what if we made a show that was like to the heart of the Japanese, like, yo, if you're coming here, your shit has to be done. And it has to be like if it's a car that you says makes 1,000 horsepower, we're gonna dyno that shit at the door. Like if it's a truck that can jump and do this, we're gonna jump it before you can get it in the door. Like,
leave no doubt.
Yeah. It has to be. This is like, I don't even know what you'd call it, but like the show would be like called like
call it Leave No Doubt.
Yeah, Leave No Doubt. Okay, welcome to Leave No Doubt.
Like, don't come half stepping. Like,
Team Leave No Doubt. I like it. Maybe that'll be our next Blip Shift shirt. I like it. All right. At Greg Kachaburian, at Craig C. Catch. I found an old dusty Porsche lanyard in my junk drawer the other day. How much do you think I could sell it for and bring a trailer? I would guess between $700,000 and $150,000.
What did he find? I'm sorry.
Old Porsche lanyard.
Oh. Okay. I got a whiff of dog poo. I'm going to go scoop that real quick.
All right. I will pause here.
Go ahead.
I will cut this. Go ahead.
Sorry. Shit.
I'm not going to cut this while he goes and deals with dog poo. I'm going to talk about, I really like his idea for the Leave No Doubt car show, and I'm dying to get over to Japan just because it's a place I'm dying to visit for many reasons related to all of it. And I think I always, whenever somebody talks about Japan, I always imagine Tokyo as being a city that's 10 years in the future and 100 years in the past. And I'm dying to see it. And just want to walk the streets, eat the food, meet the people, see the sights. It just looks like an amazing place I've never been. I've never been anywhere in Asia. And hopefully one of these days I will get there and get to experience it. For a long time, whenever I've been on a Subaru trip, I started off casually dropping hints like, man, I'd really like to go to Japan one of these days. And they're like, ha, ha, ha. Oh, wow, you're going to Japan. Please take me someday. Yeah, ha, ha, ha. By the way, I never cut. I'm still talking. And then like now I'm to the point where I'm like, hey, take me to Japan. They're like, okay, we'll see what we can do.
Who's going to take you? I'll take you. Let's go. Okay, auto salon.
I want to go.
January. Let's do this.
Yeah, I want to go with an automaker though, so I can go to a nice hotel.
Yes.
And then I'll take you.
Okay.
I'll take you.
Even better.
We'll bunk in our 900 or 99 square foot hotel room, even though it's like 5-star.
Yeah.
Like, how was your sushi? You're like, good. I can hear it in your belly. All right. Last Twitter question from Joel Strickland at Joel Strick Photo. What's up, my Aussie friend? With so many brands going full electric, are you excited for the future of the car industry? Yes, I'm excited for the future of the car industry. I don't think everyone's going to go full electric right away, but I'm very curious to see the brands that are the most hesitant holdouts to see where they go. Because the ones that aren't holding out have kind of showed their cards now. I mean, Tesla's Tesla. Ford is making some interesting moves as they're electrifying more and more of their fleet, and they are creating a brand out of the Mustang. Nissan has a few things they're waiting on. I wish the Aria arrived already because I've sat in it.
I don't even know.
Felt like it was. What's that?
I don't even know what that is.
The Aria is like a crossover. It's more forward looking. You're gonna have to Google a picture of it afterwards. Yep. Ariya, Nissan Aria. I think it was supposed to be here, and then COVID hit, and it kind of killed the launch of that car, and then chip shortages and all the other stuff you can make excuses for. But I sat in it, and the inside of it feels very lounge-like. It's very much what you expect an electric vehicle to be like in the future. It's nothing exciting on the outside, but it's interesting. And other automakers are finally heading that way as well. So the one I want to see most is what Stellantis. I want to see what Dodge does with electrification.
Right.
They've kind of worked themselves into a hole with high horsepower bananas and also first year military members who now have a paycheck and want to buy a car. Yo, I can afford a Charger RT. Yeah. Like, yeah, you can afford an RT, but like, just wait. Yeah. I know that's a meme. I know it's a joke and everything, but like, why does
I mean,
everybody?
there's some reality to it. And like,
Yeah, I mean, you drive by Pendleton, it's either sport bikes or Chargers.
Exactly, 100%. I had a Hellcat for 3 years, and I enjoyed being part of that community, but I'm glad that I am no longer associated with them because they're always the most reckless and noisiest. Like, it doesn't matter what Charger or Challenger you have. Like, I feel like the first step is removing all exhaust, all muffling. Like, they're just the loudest, most obnoxious people on the streets anywhere that I go, and I'm just like, guy, come on, man! Like, you got an SXT. Like,
our mutual friend,
you're not fooling anybody.
Yeah,
and that doesn't sound good. There's no way you enjoy that sound following you around everywhere that you go. There's no way.
I think
you're
there's
impressing?
people in denial who they think that shit sounds good, but our mutual friend Josh Ostrander and I were at the Kelly Blue Book office, which is in Irvine, and it backs up to where the 133 and like it's like we're two freeway split. I think it's the 133 and the 5 or some shit like that, or the 405. And we heard like this horrible fucking noise going up the hill, and it was totally it was a V6 Charger with an exhaust, and we both looked at each other and were just like,
no, it was a V6 Charger with no exhaust.
Yeah.
Nobody's making like a tuned exhaust system for this. These guys are just cutting their mufflers out and putting straight pipes.
It's all the leftover Dodge Dart fucking parts.
Why does shit sound so bad?
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about electrics and we got onto fucking Dodge because what are they going to do? I mean, they can embrace it.
They're going to do what everybody else is doing.
They can embrace it. Yeah,
they're going to make a badass
they are
muscle car. Like,
they have to.
Is silent and has crazy torque.
Yeah,
and it'll be a burnout monster. That's
it. It will be super rad. It'll be a shitload of fun.
It won't be all-wheel drive. It won't be the best performing. But
the worst thing now though
is like they will capitalize on being like the biggest tire smoke brand.
Yeah,
as they already are.
Yeah, but now the bad thing is the exhaust won't be there to drown out the annoying bullshit of the driver as he goes by, like, bro, fuck you, blah.
But like Mercedes AMG has a new electric vehicle coming out. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just even at the concept stage, but they have a performance noise attached to it. It's the AMG electric noise. I don't know if it's in the EQS or some version of that, but like I can't remember what I saw, but like you could go on their website and play the noise, like the acceleration noise of that car. And it was cool because it sounds like futuristic and like a spaceship, but it's also sort of related to like the RPMs, the revs of a street car.
Huh.
So it sounded cool, and like I could go for that. Like, it doesn't need to be completely silent.
Right.
It's nice to have some like audible acceleration note.
I like the noise that Ford did for the Mach-E.
I haven't heard it.
It's almost like if you could tell your ears to squint. It sounds like a V8 2 counties over.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool.
I feel like that's what this like Mercedes or AMG that I heard. So it's like a distant.
You just gonna tell
rumble. It's like the oral equivalent of like a seltzer, like a flavored seltzer. It's like
no. It's teaching your ears to squint and just listen. The Mach-E, it makes. I thought it was a very interesting noise it makes.
I gotta hear it. I mean, I've seen them on the road, but I've never.
I like the Taycan. Just went for the full space, like it works. The Porsche Taycan is like,
okay.
And it kind of works for that vehicle and stuff like that. So yes, Joel, I'm excited for the future of the car industry, especially as cars like that Lucid Air come out.
I'm excited for EVs from a performance standpoint and from, I don't want to say an economic standpoint, but definitely not an ecological standpoint, because I feel like a lot of people are fooling themselves and thinking that their electric cars like make them, holier than thou as far as emissions, output, and like damage to the environment, and we're not there yet.
Right.
The making of your electric car is much more damaging to the environment than, even it's been proven like Hummers. Like, it's like we're still not to the point where the offset is in the favor of electric vehicles.
No.
You're not emitting emissions, that's great, but you've got to understand, like, you know, the life cycle of that vehicle from start to finish is still just as damaging as internal combustion.
And mining for all the shit we need for the batteries.
Right.
And you still use fossil fuels to generate the electricity that powers these cars. Yeah, it's definitely a big argument. So yes, from the climate stand bill, it is nice. Here's the insane thing that brings me back to, without us going full political.
It's hard.
It's just the talking point that sticks in my head forever is that, what is it? 70% of the climate issues are caused by like 10 of the largest companies. Right. So like personal responsibility for this, like if you want to drive your 69 Dodge Charger, go nuts, buddy.
Right.
And if you want to drive your Mach-E and your Tesla, have fun. We're not the problem. Cars aren't the problem. So like, but also don't fool yourself into thinking your green car is purely green.
Right.
Absolutely. 100%. I'm with you there. All right. That's all I have for Twitter questions this week. And that's all I have for this little fucking script in front of me too. So, it makes the screen so much brighter when I click on that. Jeez. Yeah. You got anything cool coming up?
No. I mean, I added a new car to my fleet, but that's not coming up.
Is it the one we talked about?
Yeah, I
got it.
I ended up getting the Audi S7. It's
okay. So you're just gonna say it. Okay.
I think we talked about it. Yeah.
I think we talked about it off camera.
I just listened to the first episode and I made mention of it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
It worked out. It was it's a weird deal. My ex-girlfriend and I bought this car new, like, for her back in 2015, and it's a car that I had a connection to, and I knew the car very well. Like, I took it to most of its service appointments, and the car's only got 23,000 miles.
That's crazy. That's the craziest part.
When we did the paperwork, it was 23,777 miles. So it was just like the signs were there. I closed signed papers on October 7th, which is like my half birthday. My birthday is April 7th, and that's my initial attachment to the number 7. If you know my Instagram handle, it's 777 style. Like, it was just like everything just kind of clicked off, and it's like, we talked about this for a long time, but she needed a dog car, and we've been friends, we've been cordial for these past years, and I've always wanted the car, and the opportunity arose, and I didn't want an S7. Like, in shopping for Audis and shopping for cars, like, I mentioned a lot of cars like an S8 Plus, an RS7. Like, I didn't want an S7, but I wanted that S7 because I knew it. I knew its history. I knew it was well cared for. I knew it was maintained. And I took it to the Canyons, closed the deal last week. Took it to the Canyons on Sunday with my buddy Vin from Hoonigan, his E92 M3, which is tuned and has track spec brakes. That car is primo Canyon car. And a couple of our friends in vintage 911s, all tuned and all on real rubber. And yeah, dude, I was all over them. That car, technology, even though it's 4,500 pounds, that car just it just does whatever you want it to do.
I should bring the
brakes.
Bronco.
Brakes are smoking after a real canyon run, so I got to upgrade the pads. But
I should bring the Bronco and just see how much I can hang.
Yeah. It's a great car, man. It's a lot of car for the money, and it's got an extended warranty through July 2023, full factory warranty, and that's, to be completely honest, that's the only way that I would buy a car like that. It's if it didn't have a warranty, if I had to buy an aftermarket warranty, I wouldn't be in that market. But yeah, man, it was just perfect storm. Everything worked out, and went to see Dave Chappelle at the Hollywood Bowl last Thursday.
How was that?
It wasn't really a performance. It was the debut of his documentary surrounding all of his performances last summer in Ohio during the pandemic, and that was a great show. But she lived in Hollywood, and it was she was going, I was going with a friend, so we met. I drove the car home, took delivery that night, and yeah, man, it's been great.
Awesome. Well, there we go. There's a new car in the Hooniverse podcast.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And it's still got the wheels on it that you put on it?
It's got wheels on it, but I have another set of wheels to go on it, a set of rotiforms right there, actually.
Oh, you got to be on brand now, right?
Yeah. So
what was on it before?
Some other wheels.
They almost look like Pentas.
Yes, they were 21s. They were wheels that I designed, but they were in a brand that I no longer work for.
Sure. But they almost look like Pentas.
You know my deal. Don't be impressed.
They almost look like Pentas. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Tell everybody, you already said 777 style, so you
know where to find me.
You're off the hook. At Hooniverse Jeff for me. Like and subscribe to Hooniverse YouTube channel. Enjoy this podcast wherever you're listening to it. Now I think it's across like 6 platforms via Anchor FM, which is where it's based. Apple, Google, and a shitload of other stuff. And if you have any questions about it, email me at Jeff@Hooniverse or hit me up wherever. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. I'm going to hit stop recording.